Tom is 14. Compared to his 9-year-old brother, he looks almost like a man. But he isn't. Tom is an adolescent, still growing and developing. He's going to shoot a good many more baskets before he's full grown. There are many signs that Tom is changing from a boy to a man. For one thing, he's growing particularly fast.
Look at these things. I just got them 2 or 3 months ago, and they fitted fine.
Other boys, like Tom's short friend, may begin this growth later, when they're 15 or even 16. Some begin. Tom is also getting a deeper voice.
Friend?
I don't like the way you say friend.
Andy's voice hasn't started to change yet, even though he's actually older. But right now, Tom is sometimes soprano and sometimes bass.
Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me.
The reason for the change is that the larynx grows quite a bit at adolescence. The larynx is here at the top of the windpipe and is the housing for the vocal cords. This is an actual photograph of vocal cords taken through a special instrument. The cords vibrate when the person breathes out. And now watch the vibration in slow motion. You can demonstrate how the vibrations of vocal cords produce sounds by blowing air across a rubber band. In adolescence, the growing larynx and longer vocal cords produce a deep sound. A young boy has a smaller larynx and shorter vocal cords, which make a higher sound. While the vocal cords are growing, sometimes they get out of control, and sometimes they sound a little strange. Tom is undergoing another change, a change in his skin. There are sweat glands over most of the body that produce perspiration when a person is hot or when he exercises. But at adolescence, another kind of sweat gland starts to work.
I didn't see you in school today. Yeah. Oh. Say, I was wondering if, well, maybe you could, well, if you weren't doing anything, maybe you'd like to go to the dance with me Friday. You would? Great. That's fine. About 8:15. Sure. Okay. Goodbye. Sure.
These new sweat glands work when we're nervous, tense, or afraid. They're concentrated in a few places. One of these is under the arms. Here is a drawing showing a cross-section of the skin. This is a hair follicle, the channel in which the hair grows. And here, one of the regular sweat glands that produces perspiration when we are hot. The other kind of sweat gland, which doesn't function when we're younger, grows at adolescence and begins to produce perspiration with a distinctive odor. At this stage, boys find that they need to change their clothes more often to keep them from having an objectionable odor. At adolescence, boys also find that they need to bathe often. There are other signs that Tom's skin is changing. The condition called acne is common to a majority of adolescents. It's found most often on the forehead, sides of the nose, chin, and on the back. Acne is caused by the action of glands that produce an oily substance, the sebaceous glands. Each sebaceous gland opens into a hair follicle. The oil manufactured by the gland passes up the channel to the skin surface. When a boy reaches adolescence, these sebaceous glands begin to produce more oil, much more in some people than others. Also during adolescence, the cells of the skin begin to grow more rapidly, and here and there will obstruct some of the openings. The oily material mixed with particles of skin clogs and hardens, forming a plug. If the plug remains, it darkens with exposure to air and becomes what we call a blackhead. Since the sebaceous gland continues to produce oil, the hair follicle may break eventually, causing the skin around the blackhead to become inflamed and swollen. Sometimes a small infection may start and spread out into the surrounding tissues. Multiply this several times, and you have acne. Tom's acne isn't bad. He does what he can to keep it under control. The easiest and best way is to wash with a mild soap and warm water 2 or 3 times a day. Scrubbing injures the skin, so wash gently but thoroughly with a washcloth. This not only removes oil and bacteria, but also helps to clear pores that are beginning to plug. Doctors may recommend special soaps for some people to help remove the oil from the skin and keep it dry. Some doctors believe that the condition of the skin can be affected by the kind of food you eat. You've all seen people in the cafeteria line loading their trays like this with an unbalanced meal of fats and starches and sweets. Many doctors say that too much of this kind of food can make acne worse. However, other doctors point out that nobody has proved it. They say that growing, active adolescents need many kinds of food. Certainly no one should try to treat his acne by putting himself on a diet without first consulting a doctor. At least all doctors agree that it's good to eat plenty of proteins, vegetables, and fruits. There are 2 other things, surprisingly, that also affect the condition of the skin. Another sign of approaching maturity is the increased growth of hair. It won't be long now before Tom will have to shave. At adolescence, hair grows on the face, under the arms, sometimes on the chest, and around the reproductive organs. As these reproductive organs mature, they play an important role in the changes of adolescence. A boy is started on his way to manhood by the action of the pituitary gland at the base of the brain. The pituitary gland acts as a sort of growth clock that sets off a signal in most boys between the years of 12 and 16. The pituitary gland sends out a special substance that causes the reproductive organs to develop. As the testicles grow, they begin to produce for the first time a hormone called testosterone. It is this new hormone, testosterone, that brings about the stronger build, the deeper voice, the body hair, and other characteristics of the maturing male. This cross-section shows the various parts of the reproductive system. Here is one of the testicles, and here the penis, the parts of the system outside the body. From each testicle, a duct leads into the body. There it joins the urethra, the tube through which urine passes from the bladder through the penis. Along this passageway are various glands. Within the testicles, there is a complicated network of fine, tightly coiled tubes. They are so fine that there are actually more than a mile of them in the 2 testicles. The walls of these tubes are lined with special cells. When a boy reaches adolescence, the cells begin to grow and develop into the male sex cells called spermatozoa, or sperm. Since this growth goes on constantly along more than a mile of tubes, millions of sperm are produced in a short time. They are moved along into other coiled tubes where they are stored. In preparation for passing the sperm from the body, the penis becomes congested with blood and erect. A quantity of sperm, together with fluid from the glands, is forced into the urethra. The sperm-filled fluid is called semen. Muscular contractions force the semen out of the body. This is called ejaculation. It is nature's way of passing the male sperm into the female body during sexual intercourse. Here are actual live sperm shown under a microscope. They do not move like this until they become mixed with the fluid from the glands just before ejaculation. From that time on, they propel themselves by lashing their long tails. And here, in side view, is their destination, the female reproductive organs. Sperm propel themselves from the vagina, through the uterus or womb, into the fallopian tubes. From the front, the female organs have this shape. In cross-section, here again is the uterus, the fallopian tubes, and here the ovaries. About every 28 days, an ovum matures in one of the ovaries and is released into a fallopian tube. In the meantime, the walls of the uterus have become prepared to receive the ovum if it should be fertilized on its way down through the tube. If the ovum is not fertilized, it is discharged along with the blood and material from the walls of the uterus. This normal process is known as the menstrual period, or menstruation. However, after sexual intercourse, when an ovum is released, it may encounter sperm, which swarm around it. One of them penetrates the wall of the ovum and fertilizes it. This is the moment when a new life is created. When a fertilized ovum reaches the uterus, it embeds itself in the wall, which has become prepared to nourish it. The growth of a baby begins. It is for this that the male and female reproductive systems are designed, to produce new life in man's own image. But before a boy becomes a man and a father, he will produce countless sperm that never reach an ovum. Some may be ejaculated at night during a wet dream. This is called a nocturnal emission. Or during masturbation, a boy may handle his penis to cause an ejaculation. Many boys are worried by masturbation and nocturnal emissions. Yet doctors know that neither causes mental disease. They are outlets on the way to maturity, the time when the adolescent becomes a man. This is a growing, it isn't always an easy one. It takes time to get used to the newness, to all the... It takes